just as a little refresher course in civics, which I wouldn't mind, what does the Court of Common Pleas mean? It doesn't mean please and thank you, it means P-L-E-A-S.
No, that's, like I said, all manner of person who come bound on, prosecute, come near, and you shall be heard. And that,
I see.
So it's a plea. It's a plea
that's
it's a plea for relief, either equitable relief or legal relief. It's a plea for disposition of a criminal case, disposition of a civil case. It's an antiquated term, but we're basically the trial court in Pennsylvania, and we're the only court of record, so that in our court, everything that we say and do is on the record. In magisterial district justice courts, there used to be JP courts or aldermen or magistrates. Nothing's on the record there. So if you can appeal everything that is decided there, and when you appeal it, it starts over entirely before us. We have to retry the case, which most people don't realize. And we would handle everything from parking cases to underage drinking and ordinance violations, and so and then we handle absolutely everything else. Most people don't realize, again, that they don't realize exactly what we do. We handle everything in the family area, which would be divorces and custody and adoptions and protection from abuse. We handle everything in the civil area where people are suing each other because we need a resolution of the dispute in a civilized manner. It doesn't bring a person back when you get an award of money. It doesn't take care of the injuries, the burns, and so forth of people. But it's our way in our economic system of making somebody whole, and it's a way of resolving the dispute, which is important. We don't want people retaliating against each other for the harm that's been caused, or to resolve the dispute. If both of them dispute it, that just goes on.
So
like
ergo,
Hatfield and the McCoys.
Absolutely. We are a nation of laws.
Yes, we
are.
are.
Now, in your opinion, because you taught law, do you see more or less of the younger generation going into the law, in your opinion?
Well, right now, I definitely, it's fewer people who are going into the law. Because,
really?
Well, it's a very difficult time right now, and the law schools are down because of it. It just can't afford to do it, to incur that debt and come out and with the positions that they would get, unless they're top notch, they're not going to be earning that much, and it's very difficult especially if you're going to do something in the public or in the community. It's very, very difficult to get that kind of debt for 3 years and then pay it off.
Yes.
It could be a debt of $125,000.
Right. I think it's time to hug a lawyer today. I think 30 years of unfair lawyer jokes have probably brought down the demise of that, but we'll hope that our young will go back into the law. Judge, you can also do something as creative and as imperative as you've done, and that is write a book in your spare time, which I'm sure is none, but you did find the time, and it is an extraordinary read. I thought it would be much more complicated with a lot of legalese, but it's a very easy read.
That's what it's
and I know
supposed to
that
be.
it must have taken years of planning. And from what I can understand, it is an analysis of our judicial system. And you're saying that it is, in your own words, an adverse effect that it has on the state of Pennsylvania. Can you please explain?
Okay, first of all, I'm talking about the criminal justice system, and I'm talking about sentencing.
Yes.
And people don't realize, and unfortunately, people don't really care, because everybody today has been taught that the people who commit crimes are committing the most heinous crimes, which they're heinous because they're so rare. And we've had rare, heinous crimes since the beginning of time. We will always have those. Unfortunately, we are punishing a lot more people for a lot more things that are far from being heinous, property crimes and not violent offenses. Half the people in the state system are there for nonviolent offenses.
Really?
Half of them, yeah. And,
I see.
And we're paying for that, and I think people need to know it. But what has happened, because we have to be tough on crime, that's what you hear over and over and over again.
That drumbeat,
whatever in the world that means, you got to be tough on crime. If you're going to run for office, if you're in the legislature, if you're the governor, you're going to be tough on crime. You're going to straighten out these judges who let people off on say, a heinous crime. If there is such a thing that happens, that they're off we don't usually need any help on a heinous crime.
Right.
So any kind of sentencing requirements, they don't seem to be too applicable on that sort of thing. It's when we're forced to impose mandatories, where the prosecutor, in the last 40 years, in a nutshell, the prosecutor has assumed so much responsibility. The legislature has created a sentencing commission. The sentencing commission values all crimes committed in Pennsylvania, and so prosecutors take those values, those point values, and they see what the prior record is, and they compare it to what their offense gravity score is, the offense that's before us, and they plot it. And so this is the legislature and the governor and the Supreme Court has some input into this commission, but they appoint people who do this, and they do a great job. I'm not saying they do a terrible job by any means, but why should they do any job? Why should we have 11 people say, well, now if you commit this crime, robbery, in the year 2019, and you have a theft and you have two drug charges, then this is what the standard range sentence is, this is what the mitigated range sentence is, this is what the aggravated range sentence is. I mean, it sounds good on paper, it sounds good in concept. The only problem is we judges sentence consistent with the guidelines 90% of the time in Pennsylvania. And when I've discussed this with other judges have said, well, we have to have more courage. But I've heard judges actually say in public, I have told my district attorney, you bring me something in the guidelines, I will follow it.
I see.
I will follow that plea. And so there's not strong checks and balances as there should be. We are not doing the sentencing, is what I'm saying, because 97% of our cases come from guilty pleas.
I see.
It's only, and even if we try a case, we have to know the prior record score, the offense gravity score, the ranges, and then there's something crazy called the mandatory minimum sentences, where the prosecutor tells me what the sentence is, that I've got to sentence at least 2 to 4 years or 5 to 10 years. Why should the prosecutor, he's the prosecutor, why should he tell a judge? I mean, we're in practically for life, as basically I am. I think I was elected. If you didn't know I did orphans court work, but you knew that I sentenced people, and probably the people who elected me thinking that that's a sort of person that we want, I think, to do the sentencing.
So
but now we have the prosecutor doing it.
So you're saying because of this commission, your hands are somewhat tied.
Well, that's a sentencing commission, but then because the prosecutors, and I'm not knocking our local prosecutor.
No, I understand.
Our local prosecutor does a wonderful job, but there's 50-some prosecutors in Pennsylvania. Everybody has their own theory, their own way of promotion, for instance. It's an elected position. You run every 4 years. You might want to be judge. You probably do. You probably want to be, maybe you want to be attorney general. Maybe you want to be governor. Maybe you want a federal judge position. And so you got to be tough on crime.
Right.
And I'm just saying the wrong people are doing the sentencing. And I'll give one more example.
Please do. So we totally understand.
Ours is an adversarial situation, meaning that the way we present, I don't go out and investigate. I'm the trier of fact with the jury, but we don't go out and investigate. Everything is brought to us. Everybody does all their discovery and their preparation, and then they present it in the light most favorable to each side. They cross-examine all the witnesses to try to really bring the truth out. Each one makes the strongest argument they can. And then at the end of that, one of them's a prosecutor, one of them's at the defense. At the end of that, one of those adversaries tells me what the sentence is. The only thing more ridiculous than the district attorney telling me what the sentence is if the defendant tells me what the sentence is.
Yes, wouldn't that be nice?
Well, it wouldn't be crazy. It's crazier still.
It's crazier still. So you're saying that there's now a cookie-cutter form of punishment, and it's not exactly fitting the crime.
That's the sentencing commission,
yes.
And then it's the district attorney. We had a district attorney some years ago who every drug case that was within 1,000 feet of a school, and 1,000 feet of a school, again, sounds horrible, like we should throw those kids in jail, or those people in jail. But I have never, neither of any of us, none of us have had one case in Berks County that had anything to do with school or school property or teachers or kids, because most of the city of Reading is within 1,000 feet of a school. And the same thing with Scranton. So we're punishing the people who live in the cities because we can do that.
Right.
If we started putting more punishment on wherever you live or where I live, I don't live within 1,000 feet of a school. You don't live within 1,000 feet of a school. If the legislators did that, if they were going to be tough on those people,
Right.
we'd have something to say about it. And we don't necessarily care about the tough sentences until it's somebody close to us, somebody who's locked up for many years, and you wonder, why does he have to be in jail for all this time? And I'm sure there's a good reason for it, except that most of the time it's not the judge who really makes the decision. He makes the ultimate decision, but how many times do they present the plea and the judge accepts it? 90% of the time is what the story.
see.
They brag, the Sentencing Commission brags about that statistic, that we are on board, that we are following in line. And ours is checks and balances,
Right.
3 separate branches of government.
Well, I always consider myself an informed voter. Is this something that we vote upon and perhaps we didn't even know?
Well, yeah, certainly everybody who runs is going to be tough on crime. If you talk to your legislator,
Okay.
and the viewers talk to their legislator, every legislator I've spoken with, everyone has told me that mandatory minimums are a mistake. Mistake. But they have not done anything to remove them. And you know why? Because you'll vote them out of office. And your
Right.
viewer will vote them out of office if they do. Because their opponent will say, he got rid of mandatories. He's soft on crime.
Soft on
He doesn't,
crime.
He doesn't want these people to go to jail. He wants them to
Right.
go free.
Right.
And again, half the people there are nonviolent crimes. And it just seems that...
Well, it sounds very frustrating
Well,
to
it
you,
is,
being a
and-
modern-day Solomon and your hands are somewhat tied. You have been watching Northeast Current, and I would very much like to thank our guest, the Honorable Judge Jeffrey Kent Sprecher. He is a trial court judge, a fair judge, an honest judge who's fired up here today because he would like to see us be restored to law and order and fairness in our court system. I know it sounds good to say someone is soft on crime and therefore, you know, vote him out of office, but we really need to be more informed. And by reading this book, you can understand what is happening to our judiciary system here in the state of Pennsylvania. So please, please order this book online. The website is there on your screen, and or it's in bookstores almost everywhere. The book is called Justice or Just This. See, Lady Justice, the scales have been tipped. But our scales are over right now because we've run out of time. Thank you so much for joining us this week on Northeast Current. I've been your host, Lisa Marie Adalian, and please join us next time. I'd also like to thank our line producer, Miss Regina Lanzo, for all her hard work in bringing you this episode. Please join us again for Northeast Current. And we're out of here.